The Irrational Confidence Podcast. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of The Irrational Confidence Podcast. We're talking college football, and it's week number 2. The first one's in the books. It's already over. And I'm joined by my co-host, the man who learned that an animal that has more than 9 lives, a frog, because it croaks every day. My co-host, Fresh. How you doing, buddy?
Hi, Hats, I'm doing fantastic. Doing a lot better than a lot of Florida State, Florida, and Clemson fans are right now. But hey, it's long season to go, 11 to 12 games, or for Florida State 10. Looking forward to previewing week 2 and all the excitement we got coming our way.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun week number 2 here. A lot of really unique games on the schedule. We got some early rivalries, plus a rivalry of old coming back into play here. Guys, it won our fan vote, so make sure you follow us on the Twitter, the X, the Twix, whatever you want to call it. We put a fan vote every single week out there, so you get to choose what game joins our preview. And, hey, before we go any further, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, get notified every single time we drop a new episode. We are cruising our way to 2,000 subscribers. That's all I'm going to say about that. But our fan vote of the week game, our first game, we're going to the great state of Nebraska. It's Colorado-Nebraska. At time of record, Colorado is a 7.5-point underdog. Yes, Nebraska is the favorite. And over-under is set at 57.5. Did that a little bit differently there, Fresh. But, Fresh, can Colorado predict Shedeur?
We're going to find out. I mean, look at last year's game. Nebraska was extremely physical. They weren't talented on offense, but they were extremely physical, and that's what made our ball game. This year, second year in Matt Rule's system, got Raiola there at quarterback. I think that brings an extra dynamic. Plus, they're at home, and I'll tell you right now, that stadium, those fans, they've dealt with some stuff over the past 15 years, and they pack that place out every single Saturday there in Lincoln, Nebraska. It's going to be loud. It's going to be rowdy. It's a hated rivalry. Colorado-Nebraska goes back forever. When I grew up, I remembered the Friday of Thanksgiving weekend, sometimes even the Thursday of Thanksgiving. These two teams would face off either in Boulder or Lincoln. It'd be snowing. It'd be nasty. It'd be a fight. It's just old school Rocky Mountain Midwest, just anger. And I got a feel we're going to see a lot of that on Saturday because Matt Rule's got to have a signature win. And this is a chance. What Colorado beating the record is one thing, but beating Colorado, beating Dion, winning a rivalry game finally gets this program back on track. And that's what they need. If they don't win this game, people are going to start asking, well, when's that going to come? Because the Big Ten's not getting any easier with the arrival of USC, Oregon, Washington, UCLA. You've got to have a signature win. And this is a chance where they can get a rivalry win, get themselves to 2-0, and keep building off of that. It's a unique scenario, though. This game, both these quarterbacks have NFL dads. Obviously, we know about Shedeur, but then Raiola comes in, highly touted, been around the block a few times in the recruiting, process. His dad was a legend there in Nebraska. He is brought in here to win games like this, to light this offense on fire in a good way, not a bad way like a dollar bill when you're betting on LSU in Las Vegas. He needs to show up, make the big boy throws. This Colorado defense is not very good. As long as you avoid number 12 on the other side wearing the Buffalo's jersey, you should have success. But you've got to embrace the moment. Do not let it become too big for yourself. Play within the system. Make the throws, especially on third down. This Colorado defense is nothing to be scared of. Nothing to be scared of. Warren Sapp and Dion should be embarrassed to be on the sideline coaching this team because this team cannot tackle. They cannot stop a nosebleed. Outside of Travis Hunter, who is an absolute beast. You have a chance here to get a W in a big way, but you need to manage the game. Line of scrimmage, do what North Dakota State did. Line of scrimmage ball game, play action, but run the ball down Colorado's throat. If you could do that and make the throws on third down, Nebraska's going to be in great shape. Defensively, be physical with Jimmy Horn Jr. and Travis. You're not going to stop Travis Hunter, but you've got to contain him. But be physical with the rest of the receivers. Get after Shedeur, contain him. Don't let him break loose on the edge, and that's how you win this football game. Physicality in football still matters, folks. Line of scrimmage dominance still matters. North Dakota State took it to Colorado and punched them in the mouth all night long. Colorado got lucky to win that ball game. The refs there were some terrible calls going in favor of Colorado all night long. If those things happen differently, we're talking about an 0-1 Buffalo team and real panic setting in. This is a big chance right now for Nebraska. I think the crowd plays up to the emotions. I think this game is a slow starting football game. It'll grind it out, and eventually Nebraska will win the ball game. Well, Nebraska will not cover, though. Take Colorado on
Wow.
the points. Nebraska won't cover. They'll win a sloppy game, win by 3, but they will get the W, and Matt Rule will get a first signature win there for the Cornhuskers.
Wow. Did not expect that from you, Fresh. I really didn't there. You threw me for a loop as we're coming through here. I'm looking at this football game, and I'm looking at all the things Colorado's done since Sanders has got there. And, you know, it's an interesting approach that he's taken to Colorado. And he's done a great job of recruiting the skill position players he within the transfer portal and getting them to move over. The problem is that Colorado has not invested enough into their offensive line to be a proficient team and really be a world beater in FBS. Yeah, they're going to win some games. They're going to look good, and they're going to have some highlight reels because their skill position players are some of the best in the entire country. The problem is that they don't have the offensive line that they need to be very successful in, especially in a game like this. You know, you take a look at last week. Colorado's got to run the football a little bit better. 2.6 yards a carry is not going to cut it, especially versus Nebraska. If they can start running the football, and a lot of that is going to fall on Sanders' shoulders of being able to scramble, get outside of the pocket, and take off and be a dual threat quarterback, I'm looking a lot of them needing him to be Superman in this game to win this football game, because you're not going to get a lot more from the running backs that you have. Travis Hunter, like you said, dude is an absolute phenom. He's a stud. He is every NFL team is going to be drooling over that kid, getting him into the league next year. But Sanders has got to have time to throw and get to him. Whether that means that they're going to have to keep a tight end in every single play, whether they're going to have to roll the coverage or what have you, that's going to be one of the things that they're going to do. As for Nebraska, it's going to be what kind of follow-up performance are we going to get from them. They had a very nice win to the season. Everyone's pointing at Dylan Raiola and saying, look at how great this true freshman did at his dad's alma mater as first-year quarterback there. He had a nice game, 70% completion. That's very, very admirable, especially against the competition that he's going to do. But the one thing I was looking at, I need to know if Colorado is going to be able to stop this Cornhuskers rushing attack. That is what I think that Nebraska fans are going to get real excited for. They ran the ball 47 times last week for 223 yards, 3 touchdowns, and that, just like you said to lead it off there, Fresh, Colorado's defense can't stop a nosebleed. You're going to run the football, run it down their throats, and kind of Raiola is going to have to be there just to kind of throw it around just so they don't stack 9 in the box against your run game. It's going to be a nice-looking game for Nebraska, how this one sets up. The only way it's going to get ugly in my eyes is if Nebraska, for some reason, can't run block in Colorado's game penetration into that backfield there. A big matchup I'm looking at, I really liked Isaiah Nair last week. Come back from a rough couple of years. He had a great 21, 22, 23. He's non-existent, dealt with injuries, all sorts of stuff. It's great to see him have 6 catches, 121 yards, and a touchdown last week. I'm looking forward to seeing how he matches up against Travis Hunter. In the end, I think Nebraska, way better in the trenches, offensively, defensively. Think that it's going to be kind of like them showing off that black shirt defense. I hope that comes back and really makes a name for itself for Nebraska. No hate towards Colorado, because I really don't have that strong of opinion on Coach Prime and all of that stuff. I don't want to come off like anything like that. But Nebraska fan base is one of those fan bases that I have a whole lot of respect for, what they've done in the past and how passionate they are about their team. They stick with that team. They deserved better than they got with Scott Frost, as we talked about a couple years ago. They got great coach in Matt Rule. I think Nebraska wins this game by 2 scores. I think it's at least a double-digit game in this. Yep.
Blowout city?
Not blowout city. I'm going to say 10+.
Okay.
I'll go 10+.
I mean, the only way, in my opinion, that Colorado wins this football game, turnovers, short field, quick touchdowns.
Right.
Nebraska, you have to get long drives, control the clock. Your time possession is just as important as to helping your defense. You have to keep the ball run the ball, drain it down, and then make Colorado's offense panic. When they panic, a 3-and-out becomes boom. They're back on the field defensively, and then it kind of avalanches from there. That's the only way that Colorado can win is they get quick scores off the turnovers on a short field.
Right. I think this is going to be a fun one to watch. Definitely get ready for it. It's a great rivalry, and especially if you're a 20-something-year-old kid watching this right now, you don't realize how great this rivalry was at one point. You guys, Colorado's known for having Coach Prime. Colorado used to be a powerhouse in college football, and same with Nebraska. Nebraska a little more recently, but these were two blue bloods at one point of college football.
Colorado had a natty in the early 90s.
Yep. So did Nebraska, mid-90s. Back-to-back, right?
Yep.
If I remember right. All right, folks, let's go to our second game of the week here. It is for the coveted, the prestigious, the amazing CyHawk Trophy. It is the Iowa State Cyclones going to Iowa to face the Hawkeyes. At time of record, Iowa is a 2.5-point favorite. Over-under is set only at 35. Fresh. I'm kind of wondering on this one. Which way should we go there? Listen, I'm going to say this with both these teams, Fresh. I liked what Iowa State did week one. I thought that they played a very conservative game. They didn't do anything. They got out with a win against the North Dakota Fighting Hawks. And then Iowa wanted to put up and light up the scoreboard. Cade McNamara, 3 touchdowns there. They just wanted to do it just so they say they could do it. Caleb Johnson had a real nice game, averaging over 10 yards a carry. But I don't think either one of these teams showed anything going into week 2. I thought they kept both of their offenses were very vanilla. Both have great defenses. So again, folks, yeah, we're going to get on their offenses a little bit, but these are great defenses on both accords. Fresh, what you got for the CyHawk?
Well, first off, we got to add the history in there. Anytime you have a rivalry game, you got to throw that back in there. Iowa leads all time, 47-23. Iowa has won 8 of the last 10 matchups. The only 2 times Iowa State has won was 10-7 in 2022 and 20-17 in 2014. Both those games at Iowa City, the same location as Saturday's fair. Iowa State has won 11 times going back to 1998. 6 of those have come at Iowa. So they feel historically more comfortable coming on over to Iowa City and playing the Hawkeyes than playing in Ames at home. The last time Iowa lost as an AP top 25 team in this matchup was 2005, and they got smoked 28-3 by Iowa State. So the trends favor the Hawkeyes for the most part, but there is ways that Iowa State can get a W. Only one team has scored 21 or more points in this game since 2018. And that's when Iowa scored 27 points in 2021. So going back to that over-under total, take the under, folks. You're most likely going to be in great shape there financially when that comes to bat. Now, you spoke about last week with the Cyclones. They beat North Dakota 21-3. It was a rough affair offensively. Definitely, they had to. Hopefully they were playing too super vanilla and didn't want to give anything away to the Hawkeyes coming in this game. But if they were putting in some special stuff, kind of has to be worried about the offense ready to rock and roll come Saturday afternoon. The key, though, Jalen Noel and Jaden Higgins at wide receiver, they've got to create separation. We know about the Hawkeye secondary historically. They're going to be on them all the time. How do these 2 receivers make plays for Rocco Beck in that offense and get open and make some big plays down the field? At least keep the drives going. Because Iowa's defense is going to be locked down. You've got to find ways to catch the pass, take advantage of the opportunities, get off the field, and score some touchdowns. They did give up 174 yards rushing in North Dakota. That kind of has me worried a little bit by the Cyclone defense. What were they showing? Were they actually tackling correctly? Were they just sort of just going through the motions, trying to get the game over? If that still persists here on Saturday, Iowa should have no trouble running the ball down their throat. So hopefully the Cyclones can clean that up a little bit. Iowa put up 40 points. They got their ball game. People were shocked at that offense. Can they replicate? Can Cade McNamara and that offense get it going again? Was it just playing a solid FCS team, or is this a sign of things to come? A new offensive coordinator, new lifeblood in that program. We're going to find out a lot about both these teams in this game because we've seen what Matt Campbell can do at Iowa State when they're underrated and nobody pays attention to them. and somehow they make charges up the
Right.
radar, but still struggles beating Iowa. We've seen Iowa play great defense and their offense be terrible. Both these things have got to emerge in this ball game. Can Iowa State and Matt Campbell win a big game? And can Iowa score points consistently and dominate offensively in this modern era of college football? If those two things come into play, we're gonna have a heck of a shootout. But it's going to be an interesting which story is truly going to continue to keep building a narrative and which is just a mirage of last week and of the previous seasons. Looking at this game, I mentioned Rocco-Beck to quarterback. Iowa State, this is a big chance for him. He has a chance to become a legend. He's kind of the same kind of Brock Purdy mold. Manage the game, make the throws when you have to on third down. Don't try to do too much, but be reliable. Jeremiah Cooper, safety for the Cyclones. You've got to dictate your defense toward this offense. Be the aggressive team. Make plays, hunt down Caden McNamara, watch him like a hawk, literally, and force a couple turnovers, shorten the field. Get the momentum for Iowa State. Try to go in there, pull up the upset. Play loose. Don't play so uptight. On the other side, Jay Higgins and Sebastian Castro are two elite players on the Iowa defense. You have a chance, again, beating up a little brother. Lock it down, get off the field. Are you living up to your All-American status, Jay Higgins? Are you going to wrap up, make 20 tackles, 15 tackles? Castro, you got a lot of nods for a great team, one of the first, I think third-team All-American nods there, and third-team All-Big Ten as well. Show up, make a play for the Hawkeye defense. You don't have to put up 40 points. You just got to win the ball game. But where's this team going to be focused at coming in this game? In the end, I think Iowa State wins 18-17 in a shocker on a game-winning drive, and they go for two to win the ball game.
Fresh, here's something that really popped off the page to me. And I mean, this is like jumped off the page as much as a CyHawk Trophy type of thing, because that's a unique type of trophy there, Fresh. Last week, Iowa ran 71 plays of total offense. They ran 71 plays on offense last week. The Cyclones ran 48. Okay? And people will be like, well, all right, 21, Iowa put up 40. Yeah, that's true. But in Iowa State game, they let the defense run 72 plays. What that means is they were efficient with their offense, or they're just doing 3 and outs or running there. But it also says that the Iowa State defense was a bend, don't break mentality. That makes me a little nervous for a football game like that, because what I have a feeling is McNamara, Johnson, you got Lachey, you got this young kid now, Vander Z, I like the last name, who was the leading receiver last week. I love the unique names. Kid's a freshman. Are they able to, is Iowa going to rack up like a bunch of yards inside the 20s? Like, are they going to be able to go 20-20, but then the minute they hit the red zone, Iowa State's defense really suffocates the opposing offense? And that's kind of what it looks like they did last week. They got off the field when it mattered the most, and they didn't let these teams, they held on to the ball and ran a bunch of plays, but you still didn't get into the end zone. I think that's going to be a unique thing with it. If either one of these teams can develop a powerhouse level of offense, and again, I'm going to kind of like fade a little bit to the Iowa side on that one, because I like the fact that they have a new offensive coordinator. They didn't have Kurt Ferentz last week, as he was serving a 1-game suspension, if I recall correctly.
Mm-hmm.
You got McNamara, who's playing with a big, and I mean a big chip on his shoulder, I think. And then you have a guy like Caleb Johnson. You have a guy like Lachey, who is one of the best tight ends in college football this year. You have a lot of things to like. I feel like the ingredients to a great meal, like there's the ingredients to a great offense, is there at Iowa. They have to put it together. But I also feel like Iowa State has the ingredients to kind of stop a team like this as well. I'm leery about that 35.5. I think history says to take the under in this game. And for some reason, I think they're going to cross the over on it. I don't know why I get that feeling. I'm going to say that they're going to cross the over. Not crazy. I'm going to go a game like a 21-17 game. McNamara gets a late touchdown pass to Lachey to win the game in the fourth quarter to put them up 21-17. I'm going with Iowa in the game, but just a bit hitting the over.
Hey, we split. This is actually a good sign. We're going to see, chaos. We didn't both pick the same team.
Yeah, exactly. So I love the CyHawk, man. It's one of my low-key favorite rivalries.
Well, it's those regional rivalries, especially in the Midwest, where it's literally the only thing in town is this
Right.
game. It means something. You get your basketball game maybe in November or December. Yeah, they're going to meet in the wrestling matches during the winter, but this football game, everybody sort of gets off. It's harvest time, wrapping up your chores, turn the game on. It means a lot to a lot of people.
Yeah, and it's a respected rivalry game out there. It's one of those that if you gave me every week, allowed me to choose a different ticket to go see a game each and every week, and said, whatever one you want to go check out. If CyHawk was one of my options, I definitely think it'd be a top, closer to the top of my list of just random games to want to be a part of.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you meet some cool people, drink some beer, eat some corn, watch some football.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Fresh, let's go to our third game this week. Oh, boy, howdy. This is an intriguing one. Boise State traveling to Eugene, Oregon. At time of record, Oregon is a 19.5-point favorite. Over-under is set at 61.5. Ashton Genty coming off a monster game last week. Dylan Gabriel looked okay at times. Had a lot of yards. Messed up on a couple of scores. 41-49. Good line, but they still only put up 28 against a way, way weaker opponent. Fresh, you got anything? Is Boise State pulling this upset or not?
I mean, first off, we just got to check the Boise State vibe. If that the Boise State defense that was in Statesboro on Saturday shows up to Eugene, Dylan Gabriel might set the all-time passing record for NCAA total yards in that game alone. That defense down there was atrocious versus Georgia Southern. So that's the first thing. Right now, I'm looking at this program. They've got to play better. They've got to tackle. They've got to execute. Because the offense they're going to be facing in Oregon is a lot better. Secondly, who's going to help Ashton Jennings? The guy scored 6 touchdowns, put up school record total yards. Who's going to help him consistently? Because eventually they're going to know, if they didn't already, that this guy's an absolute stud and we've got to shut him down. And you've got to get somebody else involved so that better teams in the league don't start keying on him and taking him away. You've got to find some balance, got to find some other guys to really start contributing to spread the wealth a little bit and to create matchup opportunities. So how does Boise State attack this football game? I guarantee you right now, maybe part of that team was looking ahead to Oregon. They're like, oh, we got Georgia Southern because they had a lead early and they let them get back in the ball game. Oh, we got this game wrapped up. Let's look ahead at Oregon. And then they coasted and then they almost lost. So where's the vibe at this for the Boise State team? Are they really fired up? They're ready to take advantage of the opportunity. It was defensively a terrible look. Offensively, obviously fantastic last week. Going to the Oregon side, you kind of hope that they were just sort of messing around. If that's the Duck version we're going to get the rest of the season with that talent on that team, offensively and defensively, people picking to win the national championship, people picking to make the playoff like us, it's going to be a little tough pill to swallow because that team did not look very good. They obviously had tons of completions. You mentioned the 41 for 49, but score 24 points, 28 points. You've got to be better. Go out there and smoke people.
Right.
Where was that fire for Oregon to come out and just dominate somebody? To have no care, no mercy whatsoever. Just put it to someone right at the bat, get the third stringers in there in the third quarter, and get ready to move on down the road. Dan Lanning, maybe it's part of the process, but even then, you want to put your foot down week one and make a statement. So how does the team come out versus Boise State at home, ready to rock and roll at night? It's going to be a 7 o'clock local start, 10 o'clock or on Peacock, I believe, Eastern.
Yep, 10.
Come out there, fire up Alson, and just dominate. Absolutely just go off. Leave no doubt because Boise State offensively can score with you. You have to come in here and catch the opportunity and show that you are one of the 4 or 5 best teams in the country. If Boise State can make this a ball game, it's going to make a heck of a case for them for the playoff, first off. But it's really going to put a lot of doubt into Oregon if they're actually truly a contender. What's Dan Lanning doing out there? The last memory I have of Dan Lanning, outside of being a great defensive coordinator for Georgia, was his first ever game getting smoked by Georgia and then losing to Washington 3 times. You've got to reset the narrative. Even though I'm not saying this is a conference championship game, you've got to start dominating folks who are quality opponents and putting them completely in the rearview mirror by halftime or third quarter and coasting forward. So that's kind of where the statement of the program is for Oregon. Can they come out and just dominate somebody? If not, Jenny and that Boise State Bronco team will make it feisty for them, and they might get an upset. In the end, I think Tez Johnson, Evan Stewart, Jordan James, the three amigos there with Dylan Gabriel, get their feet under them or get their wings going, and they put on a show offensively, and they kind of make everyone forget about last week. I think they put up 56 on Boise State, and they win by 30.
Wow. Evan Stewart's got to have for that to happen, Evan Stewart's got to be more than 3 catches for 15, man.
Yeah. I mean, I'm saying unleash the Duck offense, go off, make a statement.
I hope so, because you take a look here, Fresh, and yeah, you say all of these things with Oregon. I need to see it now. Like, again, week one's week one, and you can give a lot of teams some grace with their performance week one because there's no preseason in college football. So these warm-up games early on are your preseason games, I guess, before you get into conference play. Dylan Gabriel, 83% of his passes complete, but I think a lot of times people are going to focus on the quarterback because it's easy to do. This Duck offense, no way in hell should they average under 3 yards a carry versus Idaho. Like,
Nope.
Seriously, you average under 3 yards a carry. Again, Jordan James had he was averaging over 6, but Noah Winnington, he's 2.4. Other guys are losing yards. Dylan Gabriel took 3 sacks on the game. Again, I know sacks take out your rushing yards, but come on, guys. Like, you should have been able to run the ball down Idaho's throat in this game. I don't know. That really irks me right there. And then you take a look at Boise. Boise goes for 371 as a team. Genty himself going for 267. I think these offenses are going to trade punches early on. I don't think the defense is going to show up until after halftime. I think it's going to be whichever team can go into halftime, make whatever adjustments that they need to see, and then come back out and dominate. The question I'm going to ask you, Fresh, and again, I think it's really intriguing in this matchup. What do you put the odds of Boise actually pulling this upset? Because I think a lot of people will still, with it being Boise State, I think there will be some action on seeing that this is an upset. Like, people will pick this.
I don't trust the quarterback.
Madsen?
I don't, in a big venue, I guess you're going to Outson. It's gonna be a ferocious environment.
Right.
You can never count Boise State out for any kind of upset. We've obviously seen that historically, but I think it's a 10% chance.
Okay.
I'll give you 10%. Like Oregon,
10%.
That the line of scrimmage game. You mentioned that earlier about their lack of firepower. I'll say offensively on the offensive line. If this week of practice doesn't light a fire under them, then we raise the red flag on Oregon. This is a chance for them to really all right, it's time to get going and really get a matchup. And in the end, if you want to talk about playoff seeding, you beat Boise State, and Boise State wins the Mountain West. It only has 1 loss, and you're the team that beat them. Even if you don't win the Big Ten, you're the guaranteed 5 seed for the most part.
Right. I think that if Boise pulls the upset in this game, let's say Boise does pull that upset. Let's say, and me, I'm right around 10 to 15% myself. If Boise pulls this upset, they have a marquee win on their schedule. And let's say they're the group of 5 representative. They're most likely they're in their driver's seat for that position from here on out. I don't necessarily think that the group of 5 then is the 12 seed if it's Boise with an upset over Oregon.
That's a great call. I mean, we already seen the ACC, even though Miami and Georgia Tech have chances, but everyone else in the league's taking some bad L's to start off with, or just some L's. The Big 12 is going to beat each other up. So that way you're going to have losses there in ranking. If Boise State pulls off the upset of Oregon and then runs the table through the Mountain Western 13-0, they're the 4 seed, maybe the 3. I mean, the Mountain West isn't exactly, it's not going to be as great this year as it has been in the past.
Right.
But still then, you're the 3 or 4 seed, you get a bye week.
Right.
That, that
Or
would be a statement.
or if you're 5 through 8 and a team's got to
You're
go,
home.
in December into Boise.
It's exactly what they'd want on the Smurf curve.
Ooh, that'd be a tough one.
Imagine like Missouri or Penn State or Ole Miss or Oklahoma State rolling into Boise, Idaho, and their fan base is rolling up in their middle of nowhere and snowing down in December. That would be a heck of a game.
God, that'd be an awesome game. That'd be awesome. One can dream. One can dream. All right, Fresh, let's go to our next game this week. It is in Charlotte, North Carolina. We got the NC State Wolfpack. It's a Wolfpack party facing the Tennessee Volunteers. Rocky Top, you'll always be. We're in North Carolina. I guess it's kind of mildly rocky in North Carolina. But at time of record, the Tennessee Volunteers are 7.5-point favorite. Over-under in this game is set at 60.5. I thought that was a little on the high side for me. But I'll get your take here, Fresh. NC State, I was a little disappointed in them. Were you?
I'm going to fully admit, folks, if you haven't listened to the podcast before, for 6 or 7 years, I worked at Jacksonville University here in Jacksonville, Florida. We had a football program. That head coach of the football program was Kerwin Bell. After leaving JU, he went and won a D2 natty at Valdosta State, and now he's the current head coach at Western Carolina. His DC when he was at JU, Jerry Odom, is the DC at Western Carolina. So half of me actually want NC State to lose that ball game because those two guys know some ball. But what they did is they attacked NC State, and that's what they've always done at Valdosta State. It's what they did at JU. That's their mentality, the way they offensively and defensively they coach. And they gave NC State a lot. Grayson McCall didn't look confident. Yes, Concepcion had 3 touchdowns. Jordan Waters ran pretty well, but they didn't look ready for the ball game. I thought they figured, hey, it's an opening weekend. We got an FCS team coming, even though that Western Carolina team is in the top 20 FCS rankings. We're going to go through the motions. We got team. We'll take care of business, and we're going to get ready for Tennessee. And they overlooked Western Carolina, and they almost bleeped around and found out, and would have ruined the entire season off the bat. So the first question I have coming into this game is where's their mindset? Because if you were looking ahead at Tennessee and you had to kind of scramble, are you having some self-doubt now that you're actually good enough? Is this team like, hey, what are we going to do? We struggle there. You got the coaches now maybe coaching a little scared or coaching a couple of words like maybe we're not as good as we thought we were. Especially when Tennessee did what they did at Chattanooga and they put a whole heck of a whooping on them. This is a major checkpoint here for Dave Doran, the NC State program. We had high expectations again. Big marquee matchup in your own state, which I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to be 70-30 Tennessee fans anyway. It's going to be a home game for the Vols. How do you come out here, shake off that rust, and get after Tennessee and play with a reckless abandon? You have offensive weapons. You have some great, we've seen talented receivers. You have a quarterback. You have an offensive line. And they put up points on this volunteer defense, which hasn't been tested, so no one really knows how improved or what they are if they were last year. So you've got to come out and play confident and aggressive, and do not sort of sleepwalk into this ball game. Because if you do, Nico and the Vols will put up 21 on you in a heartbeat.
Right.
Defensively, Aiden White, Braden Siss, your 2 corners, they have got to play out of their minds. Now, it's going to be a philosophy situation because you're going to have 4 or 5 receivers potentially on the field for Volunteers. So it's not going to be man coverage for both these guys half the time. You're going to have some zone. You're going to have some matchup issues. But how are they going to rise up and help that secondary maintain control and keep that Volunteer offense under control? If the 2 of them can play great games, it allows the NC State offense to compete and not get in a shootout. If this is a shootout, which defense has enough firepower to get off the field? Who has the ball last? I'm not going to say Tennessee's defense is fantastic because we saw what they did last year, the year before. They weren't very good, and all we know is James Pierce Jr. is coming back. But if you get in a shootout and James Pierce Jr. is just pinning his ears back and coming after McCall, that's a problem right there for NC State. because who do you have at tackle to guard him? Who do you have to stop him? This is a big game for NC State's program, not just the team, but where is this, where are y'all at? If you can get back and play with Tennessee and show up, it puts you at least, all right, maybe they're a contender. Maybe we can have a Miami, NC State, or Georgia Tech potentially facing off for the ACC. If you get blown out, it's another big referendum on the ACC that, wow, this league is in some serious trouble. On the other side of the ball, Tennessee, Nico, how do you handle the hype? You had your first ever start versus Iowa against a bunch of backups. You played real well, but you ran 3 touchdowns. Your first ever home start is versus Chattanooga. You light them up. Now you actually have a real legit big game where starters are all playing. The lights are going to be bright. It's a night game. How do you handle the Heisman talk of being people are saying 3-time Heisman winner, which we already know is ridiculous, but all of that, living up to that. You're already having to play at that level where you had Hendon Hooker dominate. You have Peyton Manning already going to hang over any quarterback at Tennessee forever, all time. How do you come out here and manage those expectations and make your throws to Squirrel White, to Brew McCoy, to Brazil, Dylan Sampson run the ball? How do you get all those guys in play and keep them on a full game check? Looking at the offensive philosophy in general, sometimes you have to slow the ball down, there and help the defense get some rest if it becomes a shootout. Tennessee, run the ball, let the passing game, evolve from there. And defensively, will the Vols ever play defense? That's the biggest question I think anyone's ever have. Will we see a defense that's improved? Is it more than just James Pierce Jr. getting off the edge? Can anyone in the secondary, who they lost guys through transfer portal and graduation, how do they have that solidified? This is, I think, the biggest storylines of all these games is all these unknowns are coming in, whether poor play week 1 or just unknowns because they dominate somebody. And you come down to the last question I have: who is legit? Who is legit?
Right.
If it's a 35-31 ball game, all right, you can say both these teams are pretty solid.
Right.
If it's a 38-0, 42-10 ball game, one team getting blown out the building, all right, we know contender at that point. In the end, I think Tennessee covers. I think they win by 10. The NC State struggling there versus Western Carolina, not coming out with their guns ablazing and their hair on fire just to set the tone, has me worried that they're not going to be able to get up to speed as fast in this ball game, and Tennessee will take care of business and cover. We'll say a 37-27 ball game when it's all said and done in Charlotte.
Rush, I'm glad you brought up the cornerbacks, because that was one of the notes I had here, was the matchup that is going to go on with these Tennessee wide receivers versus the NC State cornerbacks. You take a look at Tennessee's wide receivers, 6'2", 6'3", 6'5". They all got a lot of size over there, and I believe the tallest NC State cornerback that starts at 6'1". May be wrong on that, but that's what I was able to find in my research here. I said the same thing almost. I said that I would be shocked to see NC State run man coverage in this, because the matchup nightmares that they're going to have on the outside with this Tennessee offense. Nico, I've been a big fan of Nico since he came out of high school. I thought he was going to be a really good quarterback when he was a senior in high school. When Tennessee got him, I thought, man, it's a great place to go. Now, I disagreed with what they did last year. They went with Joe Milton. I thought you should have let the kid take his bumps, learn along the way, but maybe he did. Maybe it was the best thing to hold the clipboard, because maybe in this day and age, we are too quick to let the young kids start. We see it all the time in the NFL, the rookie starts. And back in the day, you used to hold a clipboard and let him learn a little bit. So maybe it was the best thing for his career, and I hope it was, because, everyone knows that I do like and respect Josh Heupel as a person in the times I've met the guy. I am intrigued with this Tennessee offense. I am very intrigued, because if they can hang a 35-40 spot on a defense like NC State that is a respected defense, especially with Dorn running that thing, then we'll know that this Tennessee offense is legit. It is also another opportunity to see, is Pierce really that top 5, top 10 level of a draft pick as an edge rusher? Is this Tennessee defense legit, or are you only going to be able to hold a team like Chattanooga down to 3 points in here? For me, NC State, you got to run the ball. This has got to be a long, you actually want the under to come in. Long drives, take your time, control the time of possession. Let Waters do his thing. If Pierce is wrecking it, are you running a draw? Are you running screenplays? Stuff that will combat a pass rush really, really well. Is Grayson McCall being able to have that internal clock and say, hey, that pass rush is coming, time to get the ball out, live to fight another down, and all those cliches that I could say right now. I really think that it's going to be a talent issue here. I think Tennessee has more talent than NC State. I think NC State's going to make this respectable for about 3 quarters. Then all of a sudden, Tennessee's going to do like 14 points in 3 minute type of thing to NC State to put this game away. If Tennessee has a marquee win, and I'm talking like really shows up, kind of puts the boots to NC State, you don't have to blow them out, but like a solid, strong win. I'm going to say this here, Fresh, and people are going to jump and go, oh, this is crazy, but hear me out. I think this Tennessee team could be a lot like last year's Florida State team. With the size that they have in receivers, with a guy like Nico has some similarities to Jordan Travis there. They have a good running game there. They have a marquee edge rusher as well. Now, I don't think they'll have the same level of cupcake-like schedule that they'll play.
They don't have the same kind of defense either.
Right, but if we see that this weekend, that's what I'm saying. If we see that this weekend, maybe they do. Maybe that the changes are coming. Now, again, seeing is believing. And I need to see that first before I make that comparison. But I'm saying it's not totally out of the realm of possibility for me.
Now, for the Wolfpack fans out there saying, well, hey, we've won big games before. Look, you beat Clemson twice in the past 3 years, both at home. One against DJU and one against Cade Klubnik. And we've seen this past weekend that neither of those quarterbacks are world beaters. So you beat tough teams with terrible quarterbacks. Can you beat a fast, explosive team with a solid up-and-coming quarterback and match them touchdown for touchdown? Field goals will not win you this football game if you want to pull up the upset at NC State. You've got to score touchdowns. And I like what you meant about Jordan Waters. Maybe just kill the clock. Give him the ball. Run the ball. Keep Nico and that Tennessee offense on the sideline.
Right. All right, Fresh. Let's go to our game of the week this week. It is the Texas Longhorns. They're 7.5-point road favorites. They're going to travel all the way north to the city of Ann Arbor to face the Wolverines. Like I said, time to record, Texas is a 7.5-point favorite. Over under only 43.5.
Well, it's because Michigan can't score.
Well, it might be that's true as well, but what you got for this one?
That's the first thing I would start off. Can Michigan actually score? Colton Loveland, great tight end. Very, very talented.
Right.
Donovan Edwards, did you even play in that game for Fresno State? What? It was terrible. You never even got them going. They were not in the groove. Khalil Mullinsdale, he definitely got some carries. No receivers whatsoever I'm even worried about for Michigan. And quarterback situation. We thought it was going to be Alex Orji. Jim Harbaugh, and when he was there saying Orji's the greatest quarterback in the whole entire country, he's the second best in the country behind J.J. McCarthy. That kid didn't even win the job. Davis Warren gets it, and that offense looked terrible to start. They had 89 yards total offense in the first half versus Fresno State, folks. Versus Fresno State. This is not the same Michigan team that we saw the past couple of years. There's no Connor Stallions on the sideline. There's no elite 5-star offensive linemen that have game experience and multiple starts behind their back. The receivers are all new. Donovan Edwards is really the only true running back in that backfield. A lot of inexperience at quarterback, and then there's Colson Loveland. How does this Michigan team score? This Texas football team is loaded, folks. And you're not going to win this game for a 10-3 and squeak that out. I don't care what you think how great that defense is, and the defense is very, very talented. Will Johnson can't cover all those Texas receivers. Zeke can't cover all those Texas receivers. That defensive line is going against probably, arguably, the top 3 offensive line in the country. They're not blowing people off the ball like they did at Fresno State. This is going to be a matchup of souls. Does Michigan have enough? And I have some serious issues right now with believing that Michigan, after losing all the guys to the portal and all the guys to graduation and all the guys to the draft, that they're going to be able to match point for point, play for play. They are ranked because they are a top 10 team because they were defending national champions. And you know what? If you're defending national champion, you can stay ranked top 10 all you want until you're proven otherwise. And I got a feeling there's just not enough fans in that stadium that could help you crowd-wise versus Texas. This team is battle-tested. Quinn Ewers went to Bryant-Denny at night and beat Alabama. He even had him a year before, should have almost beat them the year before if he didn't get knocked out. This kid's ready to play. He's not going to be scared. He went almost shot for shot versus the Huskies and Michael Penix Jr. last year. Sark and this offense are ready to go. They put up 50 on Colorado State, and Colorado State, they have at least an offense. That defense shut them down. This is going to be a button down the hatches effort for Michigan if they're going to keep this thing close. And I mean, Michigan fans will be screaming at me, blah, 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 this, blah, 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 that. You don't know, we're Michigan, man, go blue and all that nonsense. Well, prove it. Prove that you're bigger than what you have been in the past. How much of that depth is still there? Where's the coaching? Where's the development? All those players that were there are gone. There's a reason why Jim Harbaugh left, because he knows bad sanctions are coming. And I think he tried to do it to make sure that the school wouldn't have the punishment. I'm going to leave and take one for the team. All the players are gone. Which of these young guys who've been sitting around shows up and makes a play on Saturday, offensively or defensively? Texas-wise, hold nothing back. The image of Texas going to Ann Arbor and beating down on the Wolverines football team, the image, the icon, the logos, just the names alone, the historic significance of dropping a large number on the Wolverines in the big house would feed families in Austin and all throughout the state of Texas for decades. You can have a chance to go out there and set the tone of a top 10 win by name your score. If you want it, you have to go and do it. Run the ball, throw the ball, defense, get after it, leave no doubt. Because honestly, if you go in there and you struggle or you squeak out a win, people are going to start doubting, was Texas all smoke and mirrors? Are they really truly there? Did they lose a lot of players too? Have they recouped? Those are good questions asked. This is a chance to set a standard. Like we mentioned, Oregon and Boise State. Set a standard for the season.
Right.
If you go into Ann Arbor and dominate, you can get it done. I have Texas covering easily. They win this game, I'm going to say 30-10. It's going to be ugly. It will be over by halftime, and they'll run the ball in the second half out of courtesy. But Michigan will have to do some soul searching offensively, and where they're going to find who's going to be the quarterback, receivers, and development going forward, because that offense, the defense can only do so much, folks. And if the offense can't put up points, eventually they're going to get worn out. And then we get down the season, those games are going to start catching up, and that lack of offense, they're going to become the Iowa going forward, where they have great defense and no offense. But Texas will roll, fight Texas fight, and they cover without any struggle whatsoever.
Fresh. There's a lot of intrigue in this game on a few levels for me. All right, for the Wolverines to win this game, let's play the what-if game, because I don't think it's going to happen either. I'm just going to say straight off from my analysis here, I really don't see a avenue for the Wolverines to win. But, never say never. I've learned that a long time.
Say never.
Never say never. But here's what's going to happen. You're going to have to get multiple turnovers. You're going to have to win the turnover game by at least +3 in my eyes. You're going to have to get after the quarterback. You're going to need 4 or 5 sacks in this game. You're going to have to get pressure on Ewers and being able to, I would say if you knocked him out of the game, but Arch Manning looked fairly decent himself in mop-up time there. That's what's going to take. The Wolverines have a really good defense. They do have a really good defense, and it shows at times there's still a high level of NFL talent that is on that Wolverines defense. The problem that's going to happen is the offense is so inept that defense is going to be on the field way too much. And sooner or later, even those elite level talent guys, even those defensive linemen that you have that both will probably be first or second round draft picks here, they're going to get tired. They're going to have a play where they're not going to go all out in it. And Ewers or Gibson or Blue or whoever it's going to be is going to eat you alive in that moment there. The intriguing thing for me is the continue build of a relationship, a passer and receiver relationship between Isaiah Bond and Quinn Ewers. I think Isaiah Bond, he's over at Alabama, transfers over to Texas. He is needing to build that chemistry between him and Ewers. I think that this is the game where those two go off together. I think Bond is going to have 2 touchdowns in this football game. People are going to say why he was so highly recruited going to Alabama. Now, on the Texas side, here's what I need to see from Texas. Texas, I know you're good. I know you're really, really good. Are you elite level great? Are you one of the top 4 or 5 teams in all of college football? Because you have some games coming up. Obviously, Red River Rivalry, always a big game. That goes without saying. I have too much respect for that rivalry. But there's a team in Athens, Georgia that is eventually going to come to Austin, Texas. That's another game that you need to prepare for. Texas played Colorado State, right? Fresh?
That's correct.
Yep. 0 sacks.
0 sacks. 0 points.
0 sacks. That concerns me a little bit. Why weren't you able to get pass rush on Colorado State? Again, maybe you didn't call blitzes. Maybe you sent 4 every single time, dropped 8 into coverage. Maybe you did. I'll give you that. But the fact that you couldn't get a single sack against Colorado State does leave a level of concern for me. Again, it's week 1. I'm going to chalk it up to week 1 and playing vanilla and knowing you're going to boat race a team. You're going to destroy them. All said and done. What I need to see you get after Orji or Davis Warren, whichever one is going to be the starting quarterback for the Wolverines here. Wolverines, you got to find someone who's going to throw the football. Davis Warren didn't really look like the answer. Orji threw it twice. Mullings had some decent runs for them, but nothing spectacular. I just don't know where Michigan's going to get their points. And again, I think the Texas defense is going to kind of clamp down a little bit, and they don't have to be elite level defense, but they have to be good. I got Texas 34-7.
I mean, you got we can break down the Texas defense and how Michigan's going to struggle. You got 2 really good safeties, Macumba and Barron, I think, at safety.
Yep.
Corners, I think Muhammad's one of the corners. And I think the slot guy, I'm not sure on the other 2 guys about the slot in the perimeter corner. Anthony Hill at junior at linebacker, absolutely tremendous. You got Colin Simmons, the new freshman defensive end, who can get off the quarterback. And then Trey Moore, who dominated UTSA, who's a sack machine off the edge. If you let that dude pin his head, his ears back, it's going to be painful. You've got to find, we've mentioned it with all these other games. Can Michigan run the ball all day long and keep the Texas offense on the sideline? Possibly. But that offensive line is still, this is not the last offensive line last year or the year before. They're not going to be able to go Blake Corum, Edwards, Blake Corum, Edwards, Blake Corum, Edwards,
right.
4 yards, 4 yards, 4 yards, 4 yards. They're going to have to get some chunk plays. And Sharon Moore, you're going to have to be creative and be a little aggressive in this football game. You might throw some interceptions, but at least go down, at least show and try to compete. Don't lay down and just try to run the ball 70 times. This is not Penn State last year where you went and hit Happy Valley and you ran it, 40 straight times?
Right.
Texas ain't going to allow that.
I don't think Sark's going to call off the dogs either.
No,
I think,
or not.
Yeah, he's going to.
It's a logo game. It's a logo game.
Right. It's going to be it's going to tell us a lot because let's say the Wolverines do keep it respectable. Let's say Texas winds up winning 28-21, something along the lines, touchdown game within the spread. I think it's going to say, okay, yeah, the Wolverines team isn't as good as they were last year, but they aren't as bad as we kind of think they are and where they're kind of falling to. It kind of is where you can lose this game, but kind of steady the ship a little bit. Texas, I think this is a statement win for them. I think that everyone's talking about the top 3 or 4 teams. Everyone's talking about Notre Dame. Everyone's talking about Miami. Everyone's talking about the teams that are at the top of the AP Top 25, which I don't really put a lot of weight in those things because I don't think anyone really pays that much attention to that. But I think Texas wants to say, hey, no, you need to look at us. And I know Texas fans are going to say, hey, look at us, but it really needs the rest of the country to go, oh, it's one of those type of Texas teams this year. Like, they got everything from top to bottom there as well. Still a little nervous about the run game, just a bit. Need to see more out of that. I want to see more. That's when I say I'm nervous about. So, again, I think Longhorns win big in this game, but again, there's a lot of stories to be told in this football game.
Yeah, I mean, logo game, just the one thing that, if you're Michigan, there's a soccer term, park the bus. If it's a close game, milk the play clock, take your time, slow walk out of the huddle, whatever you can to make the score look better.
All right, folks, let's go to our last part of our episode. It is time for our Brown Water Bets. It's a new segment we're doing this year. We've been working on different nicknames for it, but we've come and decided on Brown Water Bets. I'll let you guys decide what the brown water is. So we chose 3 games last week. We put our money where our mouth is, where it shows, or all 3 of those games. It is a competition between our producer, Drew, our legal eagle, Kinger, Fresh, and myself. Right now, leader in the clubhouse, our producer went 1-2, and the rest of us went 0-3. So maybe if you just bet the opposite of us, we'll do as well. Fresh, you have the first game of the week. Which game are you picking for us to bet on?
Well, this kind of game went to pull to the heartstrings a little bit. Fran Brown, former Georgia defensive backs coach, the head coach of Syracuse, and Georgia Tech playing pretty well. OC, former Georgia assistant Buster Faulkner. Tech at Syracuse, kind of a little ACC tilt up in the dome. And I'm going to take Georgia Tech to cover the 2.5.
You're going to take Georgia Tech covering the 2.5. I am going to actually take the under in this game. The spread is currently sitting at 62.5. So I'm going to take the under coming in on this game. So I think there'll be some points.
If Tech wins, they're 2-0 in the ACC, folks.
Right.
We'll get that train moving.
Yeah. All right, Fresh. My game that I'm choosing, it's our favorite, our Rock Chalk Jayhawks. They're traveling up to Champaign, Illinois, the hoity-toity area of Illinois. And I am going to go along with you. It's down to 5 points right now. I'm going to take Kansas. I'm going to take Kansas in the points.
Dang it. I already actually bet this game, and I bet it it's under 6, so I'm taking Kansas to cover the 6. I mean, I wish I waited and got to 5. It is a sellout, though, in Champaign, so it'll be rowdy for a little bit, but I think Devin Neal and Jalen Daniels will put on a show.
All right, Fresh. So this week, our third game is going to come in from our legal eagle Kinger. He chose us. We have to bet on the Michigan State Maryland game. Fresh, what type of action are you taking on this game?
I don't really expect much defense to be played. I'm taking the over of the 44.5.
Taking the over, man? I was going to take the over too. Yeah, that's the first thing that jumped out at me. Life's too short to bet the under, so I'm taking the over in Michigan State and Maryland as well. So those are our 3 brown water bets, folks. They can make you drink the brown water. They could be as disgusting as brown water, or maybe you will celebrate with a very high-end brown water as well. So those are our brown water bets for the week. If you guys want to play along, make sure you can. Hey, we keep pretty low-key around here.
Keep pretty low-key. Enjoy it. Folks, we got another great week of college football coming. This schedule is actually pretty solid start to finish, so really just dive into it. Games across the board. It's going to be a fun Saturday afternoon.
Yeah. Special thanks to our producer, Drew. Without him, none of this is possible. Hey, before you head out of here, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, get notified every single time we drop a new episode. We're on our way. Like I said, 2,000 subscribers, so make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow us on the socials. Make sure you engage with us. Leave us a comment. Let us know what your picks are. And enjoy college football, everyone. leave us that 5-star review because you guys know Fresh and I, we are those 2 5-star prospects. Guys, the Irrational Confidence Podcast is part of Spinnable Sports, so make sure you're visiting spinnablesports.com. Yep, that's spinnablesports.com. Got a bunch of stuff going on there, but that's all I got, Fresh. It's an exciting week number 2. I love it.
Football is always here. Football season, stick with spinnablesports.com, Spinnable Sports YouTube channel, both of us on the socials. And with that, enjoy your weekend. Bye, y'all.